And we continue with apologies from Dido, my kitten. At least she interrupted us when I got to the end of a paragraph. Cecilia heard this exhortation without either terror or impatience, and answered it with the utmost steadiness. His influence over her mind was no longer uncontrolled, for though her suspicions were not strengthened, they had never been removed, and friendship has no foe so dangerous as distrust. She thanked him, however, for his zeal, but assured him his apprehensions were groundless, since though she acted from inclination, she acted not without thought. Her income was very large, and she was wholly without family or connection. To spend it merely upon herself would be something still worse than extravagance. It must result from wilfulness the most inexcusable, as her disposition was naturally averse to luxury and expense. She might save indeed, but for whom? Not a creature had such a claim upon her, and with regard to herself, she was so provided for it would be unnecessary. She would never, she declared, run in debt even for a week, but while her estate was wholly clear, she would spend it without restriction. To his hint of any future reliance, she only said that those who disapproved her conduct would probably be those she should disapprove of in her turn. Should such an event, however, take place, the retrenching from that time all her present peculiar expenses would surely, in a clear £3,000 a year, leave her rich enough for any man, without making it incumbent upon her at present to deny herself the only pleasure she could taste, in bestowing that money which to her was superfluous, upon those who received it as the prolongation of their existence. A firmness so deliberate, in a system he so much dreaded, greatly shocked Mr. Monckton, though it intimidated him from imposing it. He saw she was too earnest, and too well satisfied she was right, to venture giving her disgust by controverting her arguments. The conversation therefore ended with new discontent to himself, and with an impression upon the mind of Cecilia, that though he was zealous and friendly, he was somewhat too worldly and suspicious. She went on therefore as before, distributing with a lavish hand all she could spare from her own household, careful of nothing but of guarding against imposition, which though she sometimes unavoidably endured, her discernment and the activity of her investigating diligence saved her from suffering frequently. And the steadiness with which she repulsed those whom she detected in deceit was a check upon tricks and fraud, though it could not wholly put a stop to them. Money to her had long appeared worthless and valueless. It had failed to procure her the establishment for which she once flattered herself it seemed purposefully designed. It had been disdained by the Delviles, for the sake of whose connection she had alone ever truly rejoiced in possessing it. And after such a conviction of its inefficacy to secure her happiness, she regarded it as of little importance to herself, and therefore thought it almost the due of those whose distresses gave it a consequence to which with her it was a stranger. In this manner with Cecilia passed the first winter of her majority. She had sedulously filled it with occupations, and her occupations had proved fertile in keeping her mind from idleness, and in restoring it to cheerfulness. Calls upon her attention so soothing, and avocations so various for her time, had answered the great purpose for which originally she had planned them, in almost forcing from her thoughts those sorrows which, if indulged, would have rested in them incessantly. And there the novel finishes. Cecilia passes out her time happily in bestowing comfort and financial support to those who need it. She has the companionship of the lovely Henrietta Belfield. She lives in a house all entirely of her own. She is never in debt, and her mind is soothed by the necessities of common life and the pleasure that bringing support to others brings her. Oh, what a lovely book! It's so nice that it finished in such an uplifting way. Oh, we have 150 pages left? My bad. Have a good evening.